Good morning. Welcome, YouTube. We're glad that you are with us today. I hope everything's going great in your world. We want to have a little discussion with you, and so we want to hear from you in the comments. Today we're talking about anger. So tell us, thank you, what was the last thing you got angry about? What was the last thing you got angry about?
I'm trying to think. Probably food-related stuff.
You can't think of a specific.
Well, I can. Went to use ranch, and there was no ranch. Or very little. Enough that it wasn't usable.
Yes. Nothing will get us in bigger fights in this house than condiments.
More than once we've had talks about ranch.
Ranch is a thing. Yeah, so that was my bad. Okay, but it's... can I defend myself?
No.
Okay. So Saturday, I got mad.
You're really not going to defend yourself?
No, you told me I couldn't.
Oh, that'd be the first time you ever listen to me. Yeah, I want to hear it.
Okay.
I was not expecting you to do what I asked you to do.
I knew I'd get you that way. In my defense, some of the times the kids will pull the backup ranch from the pantry and put it in the fridge, and I don't know that they've done that, and I think it's the same ranch we already had. So
yeah.
I don't know that the backup is gone, or they use the last of it and nobody tells me. So that's my defense.
Here's what needs to happen.
All right, let's hear.
The backup ranch needs to be a different size.
Yeah, but then when that goes in the fridge, then I have to get a whole different size, and how am I ever going to remember that?
Because when you all of a sudden grab the small ranch, you're like, oh boy, this is an emergency. I need to get the regular size ranch.
Here's what we need to do. Your job in this house is to make sure we don't run out of ranch. It's been my job for 21 years. Your turn. Well, passing the baton. I'm passing the ranch bottle baton.
I haven't done a good job at it, so I couldn't literally not do worse.
How's your throat?
Fine.
Darn. Okay.
All right, what did you get mad about besides this conversation? Everybody heard that.
Okay. I'm mad now, but I really did get mad at my kids on Saturday because...
Ooh, yeah, I remember this.
I was trying to get two of my girls to help me clean up because one was doing important schoolwork and could not be bothered, and one was not home. So the two that I wanted to help clean, one was like, I did that last. Can you make her do it? Then she was like, I did it last. Can you make her do it? And then she was like, no, I know that it's not my turn. And so I'm like going back and forth between these girls trying to bargain with them and deal make to get them to do a chore. And I lost it. I was like, just do it. Or you want me to do everything myself. And I also work and I also have to grocery shop and I cook for you. And I started losing it.
Yeah.
So that was Saturday. That was the last time I got angry. So when did you get angry last? What made you angry most recently? Tell us. We want to hear from you.
I bet some of our listeners can identify with that. Like
why I got angry?
No, having both kids like, no, not my turn, not my turn, not my turn.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure it happens in your house. I think that all of us are dealing with very similar issues in separate houses.
Totally.
That's what I think. So we're going to talk about anger today. You ready?
I'm ready.
Let's get into this discussion, babe.
Gather round, everybody. It's time for a family meeting. The Family Meeting is a show that's all about family relationships. We're the Osterkamps. I'm Thomas. This is my wife, Angry Eyes.
Hello, I'm Angry Eyes, and welcome to our family. Welcome to episode 173 of the Family Meeting podcast. On today's episode, we're angry.
We are beyond angry.
We have had it. We are done.
I am like the Incredible Hulk right now. I am totally green.
Yeah, right. Okay, on today's episode, we're going to talk about dealing with anger. In order to successfully deal with anger issues, we must understand where anger comes from. So today, we're really going to look at that specifically. We're going to look at where anger comes from and understanding it. And hopefully that will help you with your anger or your child's anger.
Before we jump into that, I'm excited to tell you about something that's coming up, the family meeting. I love the conversations that we have on the podcast. Mm-hmm. A lot of our episode ideas come straight from you, our listeners, and
thank you.
We love your input. But what I don't like is we're not able to actually talk to our listeners. and get some more specifics and be able to get some more advice from you, but also be able to help you out specifically. And so one of the things we're going to be doing in the month of February is starting a monthly family meeting coaching call.
Ooh.
That people can be a part of. And
Sounds
we'll
great.
have that information coming out pretty quickly for you. You can keep an eye on our social media channels and our website for that, of how you can be a part of that monthly call. And we'll kind of have a topic we want to talk about, similar to like we do on the podcast. But we'll also have a time for answering your questions. Maybe it's about the topic specifically you have questions, or you're just like, hey, I'm going through this right now. I need a sanity check. I need some advice. I need your opinion. What would you do? And so I'm looking forward to that time, having a little more personal conversation with all of our listeners.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited about that because we love you guys. I mean, you guys are the reason that we do this podcast every week. And sometimes it can be frustrating that we're talking into a microphone, we're looking into a camera for YouTube. We would like to look at you. We want to look at your face. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your ideas too. And I think this will be a great way to do it. We're talking Zoom, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Be a Zoom call so
we can see your faces.
See your faces.
Yeah. Can't wait.
It'll be something just for those who want to be a part of it. So it won't go out to our broad public channels. It'll be kind of a smaller, more intimate thing for those who just want to get a little more personal.
Sounds great. All right. Well, let's talk about anger. Now, this episode has been brewing for a while, like anger does.
Yeah, exactly. Just sitting there until
simmering.
finally there's an outburst.
Yeah, powder keg. I had the privilege to sit on a session at a conference where Bob and Judy Hughes spoke about their book, Love Focused. And it really changed the way that I looked at life, and it helped me understand my anger. It also helped me understand like Thomas's anger, and it helped me understand when my kids got angry.
Do you even get angry?
I do get angry. We were just telling YouTube, which by the way, if you don't watch YouTube, that's fine.
No, it isn't. Get on YouTube.
But if you want to see some extra content, get on YouTube.
You're going to find out what a horrible mother in person Lysandra is if you watch YouTube.
They already know I'm a horrible mother in person.
No, they
We've
don't,
told
because
so
I
many
talk about what a
stories.
saint you are constantly.
Yeah, but they know you lie.
Wow.
So yeah, I do get angry, and we just talked about that on YouTube, so you can check that out. But I do get angry. Thomas gets angry. The kids get angry. If you're a normal human person, you get angry, and we're going to talk about why today. And I do recommend the book Love Focused, by the way. Also, you can go on their website, lovefocused.com. They have a lot of good resources there. So
We'll put that in the show notes.
yeah, thank you. Great. So Thomas, do you ever get angry?
Less than I used to. Put it that way.
Really glad about that.
Put it that way.
It used to be a lot.
Used to be a lot. You know, what's funny to me is just when I think I've got this anger thing under control,
Somebody leaves the garage door open.
somebody leaves the garage door open, or we run out of a condiment that I want to use. It's a whole big thing. And then all of a sudden I'm like, well, I guess I haven't really grown as much as I thought I did.
I think that there's a lot to be said, though, for frequency of angry outbursts.
Yeah.
So your frequency is much more rare now. So kudos.
And it's interesting to think about, the way you grow up, because when it comes to all these different things in life, the way that you grew up dictates what you think is normal.
Right.
And so the same is true when it comes to anger. For instance, Lysandra grew up in a home where not a lot of shouting. Is that correct?
It was very rare. My dad would get angry, and he would have like an outburst or whatever and yell, but it was so very rare, and it was moments later when he was apologizing to us.
What were the type of things he would get angry about?
Like, so he had chronic back pain, still does. And so like if we would leave something on the floor, that was a huge problem. because he could trip and like literally throw his back out and be in pain for months or years over.
I totally understand that.
Yeah, leaving something on the floor. So like if we left our shoes out in a place where they weren't supposed to be or something like that, and he either tripped or he would see them, that could lead to an anger outburst or something like that. But it was few and far between. It wasn't the norm in our house. I know my brother could make my dad mad. He could do some things. But I can't think of anything specifically right now. But yeah, it just wasn't very often, and he would apologize. And it wasn't like there was shouting back and forth in our house, and that was a normal thing.
Yeah.
It was a pretty calm, nice environment.
Yeah. And that's totally opposite of the way that I grew up. Like, shouting was just a way that we communicated often. Mm-hmm. Anger was just a part of the home. So you just kind of grow up, and that's what you think is the way that everybody communicates and the way everybody deals with things. Of course, then, I had an angry outburst. We were engaged. Been engaged now. That was 21 years ago.
Yeah. This month.
But, driving down the car and had a flat tire.
Yeah.
I knew how to change the flat tire. We talked about that last episode.
Yeah.
But not the time I wanted to change the tire, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. So got mad, yelling, hitting the steering wheel, and
cursing. Mm-hmm.
That doesn't sound like me.
It did back then.
After that, though, you later on had a conversation. Was like, I'm not going to marry you if this is the person you are.
Yep.
And so that was kind of the wake up call that I needed to work on my issues.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know what kind of home you grew up in. You may have grown up in a home where anger was normal and that was just how you communicated. Maybe you grew up in a home where nobody ever got angry and everything was pushed, shoved down, and there was a lot of passive aggressive stuff happening. But regardless of the way that you grew up, anger is not supposed to be present in the life of a follower of Jesus. We are not supposed to have a short fuse. We are not supposed to have outbursts and sin when we are angry.
Yeah, good things typically don't happen when we're angry. I think of what James says, and this is one of the verses that I quote all the time to help me deal with my anger. And that is, our anger doesn't produce God's righteousness.
Right.
And he just flat out tells you, basically anything you do in a moment in a rage of anger is probably not going to be the right thing.
Yeah. Whether that's throwing something and you're going to, ruin your valuables, you're going to hurt your home, whether that's throwing something at someone and physically hurting them, whether that's the words that you say that cut deep and wound your spouse or your children. Usually when we get angry, it leads to sin. It leads us to do things we shouldn't do.
Yeah. And so kind of understanding that we need to learn how to deal with our anger is part of it. And that was the wake up call for me, is you were saying, listen, I'm not going to go through with this. I don't care that we've sent invitations out. I don't care that we've invited people and reserved stuff. I'm not doing it. And so that was the wake up call. And maybe for you, this episode is the wake up call that you need to work on things. And so that's where it begins, is kind of understanding, okay, we've got a wake up call. We've got to deal with this anger. But we're never going to change unless we learn to understand where our anger's coming from.
Exactly.
Like, what's behind it. Anger is not the root problem.
Yeah, it's the symptom.
Anger is a symptom of something that's happening much deeper. And so that's really what we want to focus this conversation on today, is getting down to the root issue. What is causing this anger to come out?
Mm-hmm. Now, the Hughes share the reason that we get angry. And this is what they say. If you think about it, we're all working hard to try to get things to turn out a certain way. But unknowingly, this is unbiblical. Outcome-focused approach to life is actually the cause of much of our frustration, self-centeredness, and stress. Love-focused exposes this hidden, unhealthy way of living and teaches a more biblical, love-focused model that dramatically changes lives and relationships. So basically what the Hughes are trying to teach through their book, speaking engagements, their website, and counseling is to stop being outcome-focused and rather be love-focused. And we're going to dig deeper into that.
Well, and it reminds me of the conversation we were having with our YouTube listeners before we jumped on the episode. And I was sharing about the most recent thing that I can remember being angry about was you have a meal and it's prepared, getting ready to eat, go to the fridge to grab the bottle of ranch, and there's like no ranch left in the bottle. It's like, just you squeeze the bottle, it makes that whistle sound and just spits out little flecks of
dribbles
ranch.
Yeah. Now, ranch, people need to know what ranch is in our home. Ranch is important.
Right. It's not just something you put on a little salad.
Ranch is a core value.
Really. It is an active family member part of our life.
Catherine received from her boyfriend for Christmas a ranch Christmas tree ornament.
Not just a ranch Christmas tree ornament, a Hidden Valley Ranch Christmas tree ornament.
Which is God's ranch.
That is the right ranch.
Yes.
But the reason I'm sharing this story is because I had an envisioned outcome already.
Yep.
Of me eating my meal, dipping my chicken into the ranch, the way that I really enjoy it. So we talked a little bit about nutrition and health and making some healthy substitutes. Ranch is not one of the things we're willing to substitute around here.
Ranch will always be present, no matter how strict our diets are. We will be dipping that lean grilled chicken in ranch.
Yeah. But the problem was I had this outcome that I was planning on, and I was frustrated because I didn't get the outcome. Mm-hmm. Instead of being love focused, where I'm understanding that my wife is busy, that I've got 4 daughters in here that also like to use ranch, and they are children. And even though I think they should be old enough to tell us when they're used the last backup ranch, and you heard me say that right, a last backup ranch, because typically we have a backup for the backup ranch.
Yeah, typically we have 2 in the pantry, 1 in the fridge. We have a problem.
But to love them and to understand they also enjoy using ranch, and that's okay. And so that would have prevented the anger. Now, I didn't shout at anybody. I didn't call anybody names. I was frustrated, and I ate my chicken dry, and was miserable. But
You think the chicken was dry?
Drier than having soaked in ranch.
Thanks, man.
I wasn't saying the chicken itself was dry, but there's no sauce. We got to have sauce. We're a family with sauce, so don't try to be like that.
We're a saucy family.
But that helps you to understand what we're talking about here. Mm-hmm. So let's look at maybe and talk about some other practical situations. This is something that may come up in your house. Your wife tells you she is going to be home from the grocery store at 5:30.
Okay.
And when she gets home, she's going to cook supper, take about an hour to prep everything, cook everything, get it on the table to eat. Okay, so you're going to eat at 6:30.
Got it.
After that, you plan to watch the game, and kickoff is at 7.
Is a half hour enough for dinner to get you to the kickoff in time? Usually. Here, usually.
Should be, yeah. Yeah, depending on the conversation, what's happening.
Okay, got it.
So most nights we might take more than 30 minutes. But if the game's coming up, it's like, okay, I'm going to speed things along, right? So we've got our plan. Mm-hmm. And I'm watching the clock. It passes 5:30, then 5:45, then 6.
Ooh.
And your wife still isn't home. Mm. Now, this is not this exact scenario, but we've had situations like this where it's, okay, we're a one-car family. We've got a meeting to be at. Mm-hmm. And Lysandra went to the grocery store to get something, and it's been so long ago, I don't know what it was. Lysandra and I share locations with each other at all time on our phones, just to help with planning and not to be checking in every second in case one of us has to go somewhere else. So we get close to the time, and I check her location, and I see that she's still at the grocery store.
Yep, I'm in Aldi.
So I text her, like, hey, we need to leave at such and such time in order to make it to the meeting on time. I know, I'm getting ready to leave. And I'm like, if you leave now,
If I leave from Aldi at that very moment.
right now, you won't be home in time to leave on time.
Exactly.
So sometimes this happens, right? Mm-hmm. Where you just can't control how many people are online. You can't control traffic and all that kind of stuff.
Which is what happened to me that day.
And so here you've got 6 o'clock. She's not home yet.
Okay, so we're back to our fake scenario now.
Back to our scenario.
Okay.
So she was supposed to be home at 5:30. Now it's 6. She's still not home. And you're beginning to get angry. And think about why. Why are you angry? You're angry because your night is not going to work out the way that you planned. Right?
But I think that before we get down to that, we think the reason we're angry is because the wife didn't follow the plan.
Exactly.
We think
we're looking for somebody to blame, first of all.
Right. We think, she said she'd be home. She wasn't. It's not that she lied, maybe, but she didn't stick to the plan. She wasn't dependable. And so you feel like that's really why you're angry, but it's not.
And then you go through the thought process of how hard is it to make the list? How hard is it to grab the stuff real quick and get back home on time?
Sometimes a lot harder than you think.
Yeah, it really is. There's a lot of things out of control.
There's variables. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And instead of thinking like immediately, our immediate thought is not like, oh no, like I hope she's okay. Like I hope she didn't get in a car accident. I hope she didn't get like kidnapped or whatever.
Have you ever thought that I would get kidnapped? Ever?
No.
Didn't think so.
You're not a kid. Lady napped.
I'm not pretty enough to get kidnapped.
Oh, you definitely are pretty enough, and
they won't want me.
You definitely have the figure enough that someone would want to kidnap you. I will say that. I won't say much more so that you're not too embarrassed.
They're gonna bring me back though when I never stop talking.
But that's typically not the first thought, right? Our first thought is blaming them of why they didn't make it on time, and so she finally gets home at 6:15, and then she has the audacity to ask you to help her unload the groceries.
Oh man!
And you help, but you're angry. She starts the cooking. You try to help to speed the process along, but dinner is not going to be ready until 7:15. And you are beyond angry now. Mm-hmm. So you kind of stomp out of the kitchen with a huff and a puff as you yell at your wife, I guess I'll just starve as I watch the game.
Oh, you poor baby.
I know.
Aww.
Well, you really can't. You shouldn't watch football. It's impossible to watch football and actually enjoy it without food.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So now your wife is mad, you're mad, kids are uncomfortable, the family isn't eating together, the whole evening is ruined. And you may not get over this fight for several days. So maybe literally the week is ruined.
Absolutely. That could happen. Okay, so the problem is you were outcome focused rather than love focused. Yes, of course, it would be nice if the wife was home on time. We get that. And probably, most likely, she was stressing over it and trying to get there on time. It's a rare person who has no consideration for the rest of the family and her husband or for the plan that's been set up.
Some people are oblivious to time.
Yes, and some people don't care. Like, I'm late, I'm late.
Yeah.
But I think that's rare.
That is rare. And for the people who are just oblivious, you could set alarms and different things to help yourself. But
right, yeah. But most of the time, we're trying to get there on time. The person is trying to follow the plan and help the spouse to get the outcome they're looking for. But as we know, there are 1,000,001 reasons why we can be late getting home from an errand.
Yeah.
Poor planning can be it, but it can be traffic, long checkout lines, a child having a breakdown, a flat tire, and multiple other things, right? But once the wife is late, there's no going back in time.
Right. Yeah.
You can't go back and make her get home at 5:30 when she said. It's done. What's done is done. So the idea here is to choose love over the outcome you hope for. Okay, the whole outcome that you wanted was to be able to sit down and enjoy the kickoff of the game with a full stomach and just enjoy it.
Yeah.
That was the outcome you wanted. You didn't get that outcome. So that's what's made you angry because you're focused on the outcome. So you choose rather to focus on how much you love your wife rather than how your night changed. And you make a choice to be kind to your wife and to give up the game, which is giving up on your desired outcome. Now, of course, there are multiple scenarios here that could could be the end of this situation.
Yeah.
Like, she could bring you dinner while you're watching the game. The whole family can watch the game together and eat. You could eat and miss half the game if you wanted, if your family meals are the priority. There's a lot of different things. You could pop some chicken nuggets in the oven while your wife is at the grocery store and say, hey, I'm making food now, so when you get home, you can eat right away. There's a lot of different things that could happen. But we're not really talking about the solution to the problem. What we're talking about is not being outcome focused and letting go of your outcomes. You're letting go of what you want to happen. That's the focus of dealing with this anger.
Because the bottom line is a missed timeline is not a reason to be angry.
It sure feels like it in the moment.
Unless somebody's literal life is on the line, and that almost never happens for any of us. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we want. That's what we really want to get to the heart of. So, all right, that's husbands. I don't think anybody has a hard time thinking a husband can get angry.
Yeah, we've seen it.
Very few husbands don't get angry. But what about wives? Do wives ever get angry?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
I get angry.
When?
I have women who are like, you get angry?
Yeah.
I don't know why people think that. I mean,
she really gets angry.
I don't get angry in public.
No.
You don't get angry in public. You ain't afraid to hide your anger.
No.
To showcase your anger.
Yeah, I'm not afraid to show it. Like if I'm upset, I'm okay with showing people I'm upset. I don't feel the need to pretend that I'm not unhappy.
Yes, I do. I feel the need to always portray happiness, which
now,
is not being real.
I think I need to act right and behave right and treat people right, even though I'm angry. But I don't have a problem with people understanding there's something wrong. Yeah,
right. No, I get angry. I don't get angry frequently. Like we said at the beginning of this episode, I grew up in a pretty calm home, and I am overall a very calm,
pretty happy, pretty chill.
Yeah. Even tempered person. But there are things that will make me mad.
What's fascinating to me about that though is you do have, like, you're very concerned with the outcome, how you want things to come out.
Absolutely. I'm constantly striving for outcomes.
But one of the things reasons I think you don't get as angry all the time is your love for people overcomes the desired outcome.
Yes, because
you are a very loving person.
Yeah, I really do. I do care about, the kids and stuff and you and whatnot. So, and other people. Yeah.
And I care less, I guess.
Yeah. It's something you're working on.
Yeah. So, but wives get angry.
Yes.
For some of you in your relationship, it is the wife who's getting angry all the time. Mm-hmm. So let's look at a second scenario.
Okay.
You're a wife and mother.
I can relate.
You need to get to your ladies' Bible study group. Very spiritual of you. Mm-hmm. They have childcare provided, so you attempt to load up your 2 toddlers in the minivan and head out. The 5-year-old throws a fit while the 2-year-old takes off her diaper.
Oh my, these days. Yes.
Glad we're past that. This has literally happened.
I remember these days though.
Finally, you get them all loaded up and you're on your way. You make it on time and head in.
I feel like this is going well. I mean,
it's going way better than my football game right now. So
I would be happy about this at this point, if from our toddler days.
But I noticed she's on time for her event. I'm just saying.
Well, what's important is important.
Once inside, you begin to take the kids' coats off at the nursery entrance. Your 5-year-old steals your 2-year-old's pacifier. The 2-year-old starts kicking and screaming on the floor. You take the pacifier and give it back, but she will not be calmed down now. The damage is done. The 5-year-old begins to scream because you stole his pacifier. He's now hitting you.
Ooh.
You feel the judgmental stares from the other moms in the hallway. You are beyond furious with your children. You leave the Bible study, and once in the car, you scream at your children and discipline them in anger.
Are you reading a chapter from my previous life?
I'm not reading anything. I'm just rehashing what actually happened.
We never had a boy, so this isn't me.
Genders were changed to protect the innocent.
Or the guilty in this case. No.
You're the guilty, not them.
Yeah. No, I never had this exact scenario, but certainly scenarios like this. Oh my goodness. We had We had one child who threw temper tantrums all the time, and then the fourth child, when she came along, she would mimic that behavior some.
Yeah.
The older two usually were okay, but they were still needing to be corralled and, get your shoes on too, and all this stuff.
Some of you moms are feeling this right now. Some of you dads are just like, that is totally happening in our home.
Yep. You guys are living there now. That's tough. Okay, so you got angry. You're yelling at your kids. You discipline out of anger. Why? Why are you angry? Well, you're like, I'm angry because my kids are naughty. My kids aren't behaved. To a certain extent, yes. But the bottom line... But not
really.
Not at the heart of it.
Yeah.
The heart of it, you're angry because the outcome wasn't what you desired. You wanted to drop off your well-behaved children to a free babysitter and enjoy some adult conversation. You wanted other moms to think you were a good mom.
Yeah.
Your outcome was completely destroyed. No Bible study, no adult conversation, no respect from other mothers.
Yeah, and isn't it funny, no matter who you are as a parent, you want all the other parents to think that you're a good parent.
Yeah, it's very important.
It's not just moms. I think moms generally care more than dads, but I want people to think I'm a good parent.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't matter what age they are, whether they're toddlers or they're teenagers. You want your teenager to behave well, and you want your teenager to respect you and others and make you look good.
It's like, could you just not look angry 24/7?
Yeah.
I don't want people to. I don't want other parents thinking you're miserable in our home.
Yeah.
I want them to think I'm a good parent. So
exactly. Yeah. And I used to tell my kids, are you angry right now? No. Then can you tell your face? Because their face looked.
Yeah. But the reason really is we're concerned with what other people are going to think about us as parents.
Yeah. We have this outcome in our mind, and we didn't get the outcome. So your anger is not just at their bad behavior, but the outcome that their bad behavior brought.
Yeah.
And if we're love-focused rather than outcome-focused, we would let go of the perfect image that we're trying to portray and be okay when it all falls apart. And by the way, it's all going to fall apart.
It is, yeah.
Okay? You cannot manage other people's impression of you forever. You can for a certain amount of time, certainly, but it's going to fall apart eventually. So what we would do if we were focused on love and not focused on outcome is we would take our kids to a private place, and in a calm and loving way, we would correct their behavior, because that's part of parenting. And if that wouldn't work to get them to calm down and behave for the nursery workers, we may have to leave. Yes, we may have to take them home, but we wouldn't be doing it in an angry rage because we're love focused, not outcome focused. We would do it in a calm and loving way because we love our children more than we love our adult conversation, our adult Bible study, and parents respecting us. Because we're focused on love. We would show them love even though they ruined our outcome. Because we're focused on love, not focused on outcome.
And the thing is, we usually don't ever realize that our anger stems from an outcome focus. Mm-hmm. But if you stop and you think about it, I believe it's true. Mm-hmm. I agree with exactly what they're saying. Let's think about the last time you got angry. It was because you didn't get the outcome you desired. Whatever that outcome is. Mm-hmm. Maybe the outcome you hoped for was love of a spouse, thoughtfulness from your spouse, kindness from your spouse, or honesty from them. Maybe the outcome you hoped for was your kids to behave. Mm-hmm. Be kind to other kids, succeed in school, respect you, make good money or make good choices. Maybe it's be on time or... have the sauce you want with your meal. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's it. And none of these are bad desires. Mm-hmm. None of those things that we talked about are wrong, but they cannot be our focus in life. Our focus in life should be love God, love others. Mm-hmm. And that's the command that Jesus gave us. Greatest commandment is to love God. He said the second's like it, love others. But we typically love ourselves more than we love God or love others, and that's the real issue.
Yeah, we're in love with our plans.
We want the outcome that we want, that we plan, that we hope for.
And you're going to live in a very angry house if you're outcome focused, especially if both of you are, because you don't have the same outcome in mind. Thomas
Not hardly, yeah.
Yeah, Thomas has one outcome, I have another outcome, and obviously we can't both get the outcomes we want at the same time unless they are the exact same.
Yeah.
Which means someone's going to be angry.
Yep.
Or we choose love and we have a calm, rational, loving home. And so, like Thomas said, think about the last time you got angry. So I shared with YouTube before the episode about the last time I got angry, and I'll share it with you. Because at the heart of why I was angry was the outcome, but it didn't feel like it in the moment. I got angry on Saturday because I wanted two of the girls, the two that were available, to help me clean up upstairs. And it wasn't even much. It was just like little maintenance things, like sweeping the family room, and then they each had to do their bathroom job. They have one bathroom they share between the four of them. They split the work in fours.
Yeah.
It's so
You go and do
easy.
one thing and you're done.
It's so unbelievably easy. And I'm hanging up their shower curtain, which they had just recently washed, and I'm asking one of them to sweep the family room, and they say, no, but I just did it last. So ask the other sister. So I'm kind of tethered to the shower curtain as I'm hanging it. And I'm like, I shout to the other room, hey, can you please sweep the family room? You know, I did it last. And I'm like, oh. And so I say back to the kid who's in the bathroom with me, can you please just go sweep the family room? She feels like she did it last. I really did it last. I promise I did it last. So I'm like, shout to the other kid. They say that they did it last. It's your turn. No, it's not. And they go on to prove to me when it's their turn. And by this time, I have just had it. And it was very hot in there. I was starting to sweat as I was hanging the shower curtain. So like, you know how I get when my temperature rises? My like temperature rises.
Or low if the temperature is too low. If you're not like in a 3-degree window, you're upset.
I want to be comfortable. I want to be either warm, like I don't want to be hot. I don't want to be cold. I was starting to get hot physically, and I was starting to get hot emotionally. So finally I was just like, fine, when I'm finished hanging your shower curtain, I'll sweep your family room. I'll do everything by myself. I don't know why I'm out here having to wheel and deal and try to convince you to do your own chores. What did you do yesterday? And I'm like losing it right now because I didn't get the outcome I wanted. What was the outcome I wanted? I wanted the family room to be swept where I didn't have to do it. That's really the outcome I wanted. I also didn't want to be bargaining with my children to get them to obey me.
Yeah.
The outcome was ruined, and that's really what I was angry about. And of course, I did have to have a conversation very, very soon after where I apologized to the kids and said that I was sorry for my outburst and that I should not have talked to them like that. It was wrong. And then we went on to have a discussion about their character and the fact that the real issue is that I want them to be willing to do things that help the family as a whole, where I'm not trying to convince them. And I'm like, I don't know when we started bargaining on chores, like just obey your mom, remember how you should obey. But anyway, so we had to talk about character and whatnot, but
like the outcome you want them to have is, I want to help, so let me help.
Exactly.
And you want them to do it on their own without being reminded.
And it was shattered. My outcome was shattered and I lost it. So go ahead and run the scenario through your mind of the last time you got angry. And then boil it down. Boil it all down to what was the outcome you were after, because that's why you were angry. Now, if you go on lovefocus.com, the Hughes have a prayer card that they give out. And I have had this in my purse for probably 3 years now. These are the 3 things that you can pray for that will help you to be love focused and not outcome focused. Okay.
Okay.
So here's the 3 prayers, and you can go and download the card and print it off for yourself.
Oh, cool.
Laminate it or whatever. So, and I really recommend that you do this. So this is what's on one side of the card. Number 1, thank you, Lord, that all my needs are met and your love and grace are enough. Okay, so we're going to break that down a little bit. Thank you, Lord, that all my needs are met. When you didn't get ranch, you still had all your needs.
Yeah, I still had food to eat.
Yep.
I had a nice place to live.
Yep. When I didn't get the family room swept and I didn't get the kids to behave the way that I wanted them to behave, my needs were still met. I was still fine. And then listen to the second part, and your love and grace are enough. Maybe the outcome that you want is your spouse to love you. Maybe your spouse either doesn't love you or doesn't act like they love you. And that is not an easy thing to go through. That's awful. And that can cause anger. But ultimately, we have to realize that my happiness, my peace, my joy is not dependent on Thomas.
Right.
It's not dependent on if he is loving towards me, if he makes me feel loved. My security comes from the love of my Father.
God loves me,
God.
yeah.
And his grace is enough.
I mean, grace is all the good things God gives us that we don't deserve, because we don't deserve his goodness and his blessings, but he gives them to us freely anyway.
And when we feel angry, I guarantee there's no way you're thinking about God's grace in your life.
No, you're thinking about, yourself, what people owe you, what you deserve, why you should have it, and so on and so forth.
So that's a deeper prayer than it maybe even sounds like. It's very simple, but it's a deep prayer. Thank you, Lord, that all my needs are met and that your love and grace are enough. All right, what's prayer number 2?
Thank you, Lord, for just the way things are right now.
What?
Yeah.
No thanks.
Yeah, right
I don't
now.
pray that.
Well, and it just reminds me of 1 Thessalonians 5:18. Mm-hmm. Give thanks in all circumstance, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. Mm-hmm. So whatever you're in right now is your circumstance.
Right.
Like, thank God for just the way things are right now. The house may not be as clean as I want it to for my kids' friends to come over.
Right.
Right, but I have kids.
Yes.
I have a house for people to come to, even if it's not up to the clean standards I want it to be for guests. Mm-hmm. Thank you, God. I have plenty of food to eat.
Mm-hmm. And chicken that isn't dry.
Very, very moist chicken. It may not have the ranch flavor that I'm looking for, but I've got food to eat, plenty of food to eat. And I've got a wonderful wife who makes me all kinds of amazing meals. And so thinking about, hey, the way things are right now, I have a lot to give thanks for, and so do you.
Mm-hmm. That's right. I love that. Thank you for just the way things are right now. It's really ultimately being contented.
Yeah.
And when you are love focused, you are more content. Like, it's okay when things don't work out because I'm happy with how things are right now. Okay. Number 3, the third prayer on this card is, thank you, Lord, for how this is all going to turn out. So you don't know how it's going to turn out. A lot of times when you're angry, a lot of that anger too is because you don't know if you're going to meet the outcome you want. It may or may not happen, and we don't like that. We want to know we're going to get what we want. And so thank you, God, for how this is all going to turn out. And just putting that outcome in his hand.
Yeah.
You're like giving it back to him. You're giving him the outcome.
Well, and I think also it's a great way for us to kind of redirect and to think of it as an opportunity to invest in our relationships. Because when we didn't have the ranch, right, it's a way for me to invest in my relationship with Lysandra, show grace and mercy and thanks, and invest in her instead of getting angry and upset at her or the kids who used all the ranch. In our scenario where the wife is not home she said she would be home. It's a way for him to show care and concern. Hey, you didn't make it home. Was everything okay? Do you have any trouble? How can I help you bring the groceries in and spend some time helping maybe prep the meal, or however you can do it, setting the table.
Or even asking her, like, you must have had a hard time out there because your plan failed too. Like, what happened? Was traffic terrible? Tell me about it. I'm really sorry. Like caring about what she went through that made her late. Because most likely she wasn't late because she was, sipping coffee somewhere. She was mostly late because she couldn't make her outcome turn out right either.
Yeah.
She may be angry too.
Or the scenario with the mom and the kids. Mm-hmm. It's like, that is an opportunity for her to connect better with her kids. And to not worry about what the other moms think in that moment. Yeah. But hey, obviously a situation's going on here with my child. It's time for me to connect. It's time for me to teach and develop that relationship. Mm-hmm. Or the situation with Lysandra had with the girls. It's an opportunity for her to invest in her relationship with the girls.
Right.
And so if we can get our minds off of whatever our own personal outcome is, mm-hmm. and place the priority and just remember that people are what's really important. The people in your life are what's the most important to you.
That's right. Not be agenda driven. And notice too that all of those prayers start with thank you. And I'm glad that Thomas talked about 1 Thessalonians 5:18 because they have to start with thank you. That is really, when you are angry and you begin to start thanking God, that anger dissipates quickly. Okay, now if you flip the card over, this love focused card that you can get on lovefocused.com, flip it over and you're going to find this. It says love focused basics. This is kind of a mantra or a motto that you can live by. My job is to love God and others. My job is not to get people to love and respect me or to get things to turn out a certain way.
That's great.
Isn't that good?
It's a good reminder.
Yeah. I'm going to read it again one more time just so that it can really soak in, okay? My job is to love God and others. My job is not to get people to love and respect me or to get things to turn out a certain way. If we live like that, anger is going to be almost just non-existent.
Yeah.
It's just not going to be there. And we've talked a lot about scenarios between a husband and a wife, but you may have a child who has severe anger issues. We had one child, especially in the toddler years, toddler and young child years, that had severe anger issues where we were like...
I was wondering if... I just thought that's the way life was going to be.
Yeah, forever. And I also felt like, is this like demonic or...
It was that bad at times where it was like, where did this even come from?
Yeah, like it was so foreign to our family as a whole.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't how we operated in our family. We weren't yelling at her. Why was she yelling at us? Like that kind of thing. So it was kind of scary. So let's talk a little bit about outcome-focused living and teaching to our children. This may be a great study for you to do alone or walk your child through as soon as they're old enough to understand. And you could actually save them from a life of anger and misery. So maybe it's your toddler. We're going to use our toddler as an example. Our toddler would get angry. Like it happened a lot when it was time to go. I remember, so back in those days, we had Sunday school. We had Sunday morning service. We would typically have company for lunch, and then everybody would take a nap.
Sundays were brutal.
Sundays were really hard. Thomas would take a nap. I would take a nap. All kids would take a nap. And then Thomas would go over to church to prepare for his Sunday night message and just kind of go over it. And choir practice would start next.
Yep.
And the girls never had a long enough nap between company leaving and us getting ready for choir practice. So every single Sunday night, I had to wake the girls up from naps. And 3 of the children could handle that and were okay. But one of our children, this angry child, she would wake up so angry. Talk about waking up on the wrong side of the bed.
Oh, yeah.
She would be screaming and like flailing about and everything. And I absolutely disciplined her calmly and in love and all of the, checking the boxes of how you discipline your child. I did all of that every Sunday, and I would try holding her and rocking her and loving her. I tried all the things, and she was always still angry. And we would go over to the church, and I would carry her across the street while I had her in one arm, Violet in the other, and 2 other ones holding my skirt, heading across the busy street.
Yep.
She's just screaming her fool head off every Sunday. And I remember people would drive by and stare at me, or people who were heading into the church would look over and be like, what is that?
Yeah, what's going on?
It was so embarrassing often. But this was every single Sunday night, and she was so angry. And of course, the outcome that she wanted was a longer nap. And I would have loved to give her that, but I couldn't.
Yeah.
And when she was little, it was too difficult for her to be walked through this whole stuff,
exactly.
this information. But as she got older, we could prepare her for it. And I could even tell her before she went down for her nap, you're not going to get to nap as long as you want to. Mommy's going to have to wake you up a little bit early, and I could help her to see that she wasn't going to get the outcome that she wanted. So take that and think about what's driving the anger for your child. What's the outcome that they are wanting when they get angry? And try to talk about that in a time when they're not angry. So before they get to that place, every time that they have to put their coat on, they get angry because they don't want to wear a coat. So you're going to talk to them when it's not time to get their coat on, and you're going to talk them through it and say, why do you not like to wear your coat? What is it that makes you angry? You're hoping to not wear your coat. Why? And talk this through, help them to understand. And the older they get, you can really dive into this and help them to understand that the thing that drives their anger is being outcome focused.
And that leads into the family meeting we want to have tonight, and that is to talk about anger. And we want to gather together the family and have everybody go around the room and share what the last thing they got angry about was. So this will bring up some interesting discussions and work to get to the bottom of why.
Yep.
Why did you get angry about that? What makes you upset? And figure out what that desired outcome was. And then, all right, how can we redirect that to be focused on loving God and loving others instead of our own desired outcome?
Thanks for joining us today. Please go and subscribe to the Family Meeting Podcast from your favorite podcast provider. And if you found this information helpful, please share this episode on social media and invite your friends and family to listen in with you.
To find more content and information Lysandra and I provide, you can go to our website, familymeeting.org, or email us at info@familymeeting.org. If you'd like to shoot us a text or call us, you can send a voice message at 904-257-3062.
And we want to invite you to join us for our next family meeting as we have we discuss a topic that was suggested by one of our listeners. We love listener suggested topics. And next week, we're going to talk about confession of sin in a family setting based on James 5:16.
And maybe anger is the sin you need to confess.
Yeah. So next week ought to be interesting.
Thanks for joining us today for this family meeting. Have a great week, everybody. This meeting is adjourned.
All right. So, do you feel angry right now? Maybe you feel angry with yourself for being angry and you're frustrated about the ways that you've been angry and you realize I'm living outcome focused. Maybe you're frustrated. I get that way. I get frustrated with myself for not doing it the way that I'm supposed to. So let us know, though, the last thing that you were angry about and what was the outcome that you were focused on that you didn't get.
We hope you have a peaceful and a loving week.